Hello, this is video number 2 and we are painting some watercolour flowers in a very sort of simple way. Okay, so in this video I'm going to have a go at doing my montbritia. Okay, so if you remember in the first video what I did was just practice playing around with paints, the wateriness, how much water you use and how you let them kind of bleed into one another. These are starting to dry a little bit and you can see all this kind of lovely magical stuff that happens with watercolour. The paints I am using are, I've got this little trough here. The problem with this is they all look very dark. It's difficult to tell which colours are which, but I've kind of got to know them well now, so I do know. And I've got these, and they're all made by a company called Koh-i-Noor, which I've written there, which you can get off the internet. But really, any watercolour paints are absolutely fine. What mostly this is about is you getting to know your paints, so don't worry about whether you have got the same paints as me. Okay, so I'm going to do, as I did on this one, a kind of mishmash of flowers all on the same sheet. So I will keep coming back to the same sheet, but I'm going to put that one just there. So I've got a little area to practice if I need. Okay, so have I got that? So, okay, let's have a look. So I'm going to have a go first of all of drawing this plant. I only really want to draw the heads, I don't need the whole plant. So I'm going to have my line of stem there, and let's see if I sort of think like the whole montbritia is going to go in this area of my paper. I want the flowers to be as big as I can get so that I can really get into the watercoloriness. Now this one here, this kind of little trumpety one here is just beautiful, so I'm going to have that. Kind of just think, and if I just very lightly plot out a circle where that's going to fit. Now there's the little, so you any plant, this sort of technique, you don't need to be drawing a montbritia here. What I've drawn a circle to just show me where the outer petals are going to come to. And I've got my centre there, so I'm just going to very lightly, so I've got this one here, another one that sort of goes out there, this one coming, so I'm just lightly drawing my petals, this one there, that one comes out there, that one out there. Okay, and then with a rubber, I'm going to rub out that circle that I drew, which just sort of showed me how far my petals should come out. So I've got a very faint drawing, and I really don't want to be doing too much more drawing than that. Now the trumpet of the thing kind of comes out. You can't see it because it's actually under this pillow. Okay, so now with a very ordinary kind of brush, nothing fancy, I'm going to start like we did. I'm going to kind of wet my petals so that that whole watercolory bleeding technique will start to happen. So lots of wet. Now I know that this orange or yellow, what I'm going to do is just along the edge here, just going to have little tryouts of my paint, and that's part of the whole watercolour thing. So I'm just watching how that yellow, the orange bleeds into that yellow. The orange is kind of a more dominant colour than the yellow, and you'll find that with different colours. Some are more dominant than others, and I don't know why that is, they just happen. So when I look at this, it's much more yellowy in the centre, going out to this sort of darker orange around the edge. So I'm going to put in yellowies in the middle like that. So that's given me my centre. Right, now I'm going to mix a bit of that orange and maybe add a tiny bit of this red to it. This red is kind of a browny red, but I want to get a darkness, so I can kind of go from a darkness to a mid. So this is almost my little mixing palette there. I'm going to go right in. It's ever so wet, but that's fine because it can just dry and do its thing as it dries. So a little bit goes down the middle as well. So around the edge, mixing as I go. Just playing around really. It's just a nice, lovely thing, nice relaxing to do. Oh, I've got a lot of orange on that one. In the middle. Really not a right and a wrong way of doing this. That's the little kind of trumpety bit going up to it, but difficult to get that. Okay, now the centre kind of goes, there's an orangey bit in the centre. Now, it's not finished yet. When that is drier, I'm going to show you what we could do to get some slightly darker shades in it. Now, on this one here, this bit here, I've got that terribly wet. Now what you can do is you can kind of squeeze out. So just squeeze out the wet from your brush with your fingers, and then you can kind of hoover up, like suck it up, a bit of that wetness. And I'm just going to squeeze that out with my fingers into my water jug. So you see I'm kind of taking out some of that. So it's now much softer. I might do that just to show you on a few more of these. And also I want it to dry a bit quicker. So I'm just scooping up and squeezing out. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of the green now. So my green stem, so a little greeny stem, it's quite a pale green. I'm going to try out my greens there. Okay, this stem sort of zigzags, which is kind of quite sweet. Okay, and then you've got these, put a little bit of white on them, you've got these little kind of buds before they turn into the flowers. So on each one of these little zigzags, it shoots into a little kind of bud type thing, which is kind of fun. And from some of those, so from that one, I'm going to have another flower. And then you can add like a little touch. You see that? I'm just putting a touch of the orange onto the edge of that. And then that is, and just bleed into that green just slowly. Not going to help it, it will do it all by itself. Right, just a few more little tips for putting a bit of tone within that flower. So I'm looking really carefully at the colours within there. So it is kind of orange and yellow. And if I sort of screw up my eyes, I can see it gets, there's a slight sort of greyer orange, I would say, within there. So to give me some sort of darker tones, I'm just going to add, just going to play around with the idea of a bit of a grey. Now, there's grey, but another thing you can do is you can add an opposite colour. So I've got my orange. Now, an opposite colour to orange on the colour wheel, and I can talk about this in another video, is purple. So purple is made of the other two primary colours. So purple made from blue and yellow, blue and red is pretty much the opposite to yellow and orange. So I'm getting a kind of dark orange with that, a kind of grey orange, and I'm just going to put bit of that kind of slightly muddy orange colour around the edges. Now I certainly am not going to start putting that around every edge, because then it starts to look like a kind of cartoon. I'm just going to put little tiny little bit. Just with a tippity tip of my brush. So I'm kind of tweaking it at the last moment. Okay, just gives it a little bit of a lift at the end. Now I might also do something similar around the edges of these little. You see how that purpley orange is actually just the perfect colour for the job. Okay, so after that I would then start to add my next flower in there. There's another one coming out of here. Okay, but that's enough for that video. We will meet you again in a moment. Well, I'll do the daisy and then the what's that one? The purple one, the foxglove. Okay, I'll see you in video number 3.